grant writing girl. Jessica will be presenting today on sourcing grants. Where is the money? Jessica is a nonprofit consultant. She has a master's degree in nonprofit management from Eastern University. She has over 18 years experience in running grassroots organizations. She's raised over $1 million for nonprofits. And also she's the director of development for the Men's Homeless Shelter and Charter School. As well, Jessica has provided services which include the homeless organizations, family organizations, Jewish organizations, grief and loss groups, and offender mentoring programs. So we are very, very happy to have Jessica as our presenter today. Thank you, Jessica. You can take it away. I'll take you to your next. We welcome you to the presentation.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. This is the first time I've actually done a webinar. I've participated in a webinar. So we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
I want to just talk a little bit about fund development and what grant writing and grant sourcing means in the larger context of development. Development means different things in different fields. In my field of nonprofit management, development talks about acquiring the resources to advance the mission of the nonprofit organization. So development really is part of a strategic marketing plan for a nonprofit organization. It's not just about raising money, but it's about doing so in a way that develops reliable sources of income that will sustain the organization through the realization of its long-term mission and vision, which is set in the strategic plan by the board of the organization. So it's about building relationships. Fund development is about building relationships with individuals, foundations, governments, corporations, communities, anybody in your organization's reach that can help you raise the resources necessary to continue with your mission. So it requires a strategic plan, which we talked about a little bit, that's set by the board, and a fund development plan, which is one of the first things that I usually help my clients create if they don't have one, that relates to the funding purpose and programs of the organization and coordinates fundraising, marketing, communications, and volunteer management, because all those things are part of fund development. So we can go to the next slide. These are the streams that generally make up a fund development plan that I would help people create for their organization. Not every organization gets money from every one of these streams, but they should be considered and weighed within the context of your organization, the size of your budget, the number of staff people that you have, the number of board members that you have, and how you can adequately reach out to each one of these sources and create relationships with them and cultivate them to be part of your organization. So individual donors is always first, and we're going to talk a little bit about why that is. Special events is another funding stream. A lot of organizations put on special events. They can be very rewarding, and you can raise a lot of money from special events. However, they are a lot of work. They're very work intensive. So unless you have a larger organization with a lot of staff, a lot of board, and a lot of volunteers, it's really hard to pull off a very successful special event. Major gifts, planned giving, appeals, those are kind of all geared towards individual donors. And then you have corporations. Capital campaigns, that's for building a building or a large capital expense. Foundation grants, which is the majority of the work that I have done in my last 20 years of doing this. Government grants, which there are government grants. Other government sources, which would be contracts, government money that isn't necessarily tied to a grant itself. and businesses, which is more local mom and pop businesses that you can create relationships with. So those are all different funding streams that could make up your development plan. So I teach this course. I teach a grant writing course, and it's usually a 3-week course. And I've been teaching it for over 10 years. So one of the slides that I always use is who gives the most money to charity, because I think usually people are surprised. Every single year I look for updated data. Last night I found the most recent data for 2015 in the 2016 report, and it comes from Giving USA, so that's givingusa.org. Unfortunately, you have to buy the report, so I'm just going to give you the highlights. That in 2015, individuals, estates, foundations, and corporations gave $373.25 billion with a B dollars to charity, which is setting a new record for the second year in a row. It's a 4.1% increase in current dollars adjusted for inflation over 2014. So the question is, who gave the most out of those 4 sources? Individuals gave $264.58 billion. The next largest group that gave money to charity was foundations at $58.46 billion. So that's a significantly smaller portion. That's about 1/5 gave. Bequests was another $31.76 billion, and corporate giving was only $18.45 billion. So as you can see, the individual donor always needs to be the #1 funding stream for your organization and where you should spend the majority of your time. We can have the next slide. 71% of charitable giving in the United States is done by individual people. So people give money to people. That means you need to go out and create relationships, cultivate those donors, learn how to take a donor who gives $25 or $50 a year to giving $500 or $1,000 a year, or maybe sometimes more. So as somebody who is a grant writer and a grants manager, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that the majority of your fundraising time and effort should not be spent on grants. It should be spent on individual people, because they give 71% of the funding to nonprofit organizations. So while everyone focuses on grants, the focus really should be on individual people. So the real focus of what we're talking about today is where to start sourcing grants. Where do you find grants? One of the most important things that you can do is talk to similar organizations. Talk to your TCN member neighbors and friends in this area. Talk to organizations that do similar things that you do or serve similar populations that you serve. Read the paper, read the internet, read different sources of news where you can get grant reports. The internet has really streamlined fundraising in general and grant writing specifically. There's the Pennsylvania Grants Guide, which we're going to talk a little bit about, which is an online resource that you can subscribe to. There's lots of online resources we're going to talk about. The Foundation Directory Online is also a subscription-based database for funders all across the country, whereas the Pennsylvania Grants Guide is Pennsylvania specific. There's also the Chronicle of Philanthropy, which is the trade newspaper for people in fund development that gives grant reports in every issue. You can sign up for GrantStation, which is free email alerts for different funding sources when they become available. And then we're going to talk about the Association of Fundraising Professionals libraries, which are right in our area, which we're very lucky to have. So AFP is the Association of Fundraising Professionals. It's the trade organization for people like me in fundraising and development. And they have something that used to be called cooperating collections. So if you've been doing this for a while, you might have heard of cooperating collections, but they're now called funding information networks. So they have these little miniature libraries, AFP libraries, inside larger libraries that have information on fundraising, proposal writing, philanthropy, and nonprofit management. They have huge amounts of resources for free. So lucky for us, the closest one is right up the street from many of you at the Pottstown Public Library. So you can go and have access to tons of data and materials, take lots of paper or take a USB drive so that you can save stuff, because they can actually give you login information for a lot of these really expensive research tools that I subscribe to and other professional development people subscribe to that you can use for free. So the Pottstown Public Library has these FIN, the Funding Information Network Library. The Chester County Library in Exton also has it. Montgomery County Community College's Bluebell campus, not the Pottstown campus, unfortunately, but the Bluebell campus, so it might be worth a ride, or if you're in that area. The main branch of the Philadelphia Public Library on Vine Street, and the Reading Public Library also has them. I even did more research out. Allentown Public Library, Northampton Community College, the Free Library, University of Delaware at Wilmington, and Newark, if you're in that area, and the Lancaster Public Library. So what do they have in these collections at these funding information networks? So they have online databases that you can request the password at the reference desk for the Foundation Directory Online, Professional Edition, Foundation Grants to Individuals Online, so you can access that information, and Philanthropy Insight, which is data on grant makers and grants that even uses Google Maps to show you where philanthropy has made an impact. So they also have print titles, so these would be books, but the Foundation Directory Online, Foundation Grants to Individuals, Grant Seeker's Guide to Winning Proposals, Ethics for Fundraisers, which I think is very important. They also have Chronicle Philanthropy subscriptions so that you can look at current issues and back issues, because it's kind of expensive to get a subscription to something like that. And as someone who worked for a small grassroots nonprofit organization for 10 years, we didn't have a lot of money to spend on a database. We didn't have hundreds of dollars to hire a consultant, and we didn't even have sometimes the money to have a subscription to the Chronicle of Philanthropy, but the ability to go to one of these libraries and search back issues, read about trends, and in the back of each issue is a grant report, which has been very helpful, which can give you information about foundations that have given grants, and you can compare it to the work that you're doing and see if that foundation would be a good fit for you. Excuse me. So in the last 2 years, I've been the grants manager for Montgomery County in the Office of the Commissioners, which is an incredible opportunity and a great job that I really like. And I had to learn really quickly something that I wasn't very familiar with in my previous nonprofit work, which was government grants, because since I'm grants manager for the county doesn't have a 501c3, so we don't qualify for foundation grants, but we do qualify for state and federal grants. So I was struggling with it at the beginning, and then I realized that a grant is a grant is a grant. It's kind of the same thing. The language might be different. They might ask the questions differently. They might call it something different, but you're still giving essentially the same information that you'd be giving in a foundation grant. So there's two places that you can look for federal grants. The Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance is a big, scary website that you can start with the federal government. It's cfda.gov. And then to find active or current grant funding opportunities, you want to go to grants.gov. And that's where a lot of federal grants are actually submitted. Most federal grants are submitted online through that online portal of grants.gov. So you have to register, and it's free to register for an account. And I would suggest that you just register for one so that you always have it, so that way if a federal grant comes up, because sometimes the turnaround time for a federal grant is very small, whereas foundation grants, sometimes you have 6 months. For the Gennardi Foundation, you have a whole year. Federal grants, sometimes you have 4 or 5 weeks to turn that grant around. So if you're looking and you see something, you probably should already have a .gov account. Again, it's free to sign up for so that you can have a password and a login to submit these grants online. So our next slide talks about state grants. And I found some interesting resources in doing some research for this presentation. Senator Casey has a really interesting website. If you use that link there, he lists lots of different state grant opportunities on his website. Also, PANO, which is the Pennsylvania Association of Nonprofit Organizations, is an incredible resource for any nonprofit anywhere in the state of Pennsylvania. And they have a page that's Nonprofit Resources, which has tons of stuff about how to write proposals, board governance, bylaws, strategic planning, and grants as well. So they have a big list of links to all different sources of looking for grants. And then there is the something that I found, which is a really cool PDF document at the PA grant. It's called the PA Grant and Resource Directory, and it comes from the Pennsylvania House So I gave you a link there, and you can download that. It's a larger PDF, but it's free, and that listed lots of really cool grant opportunities that you can have and share and utilize. So that's a little bit about state grants. The next slide talks about Pennsylvania Foundations Online. And when I started doing this in 1997, so this is actually going to be my 20th year doing this. The Grants Guide was a giant book that looked like a phone book. It was really thick, and you had to buy it, and it was very expensive at the time. It was over $100, and for an organization with a $160,000 budget, sometimes that wasn't always possible. It came out every 3 years, and it divided the state into quadrants. So if you look at the state of Pennsylvania, it divided it sort of into 4 areas, and you would sort of look by quadrant, by field. So if you were in mental health, you would look in the Southeast in mental health grants. And it took a lot of time to sit there and look through them. In the olden days when foundations didn't have websites, you would have to write a letter or call the foundation and say, can you please send me your guidelines? And then you would have to wait for them to mail your guidelines in the mail. And then you'd have to look at them and say, oh, that's not a good fit, or that is a good fit. And then you would have to write the grant and mail it in. Well, thankfully, most of that is done online now, and a lot of foundations have websites. So the Pennsylvania Grants Guide morphed into the Pennsylvania Foundations Online, which is really excellent because it's a subscription-based service, and it's just foundations specifically in Pennsylvania. So the really cool thing about this one is it's fairly inexpensive relative to the other subscription-based services that I'm going to talk to you about. It's $500 for the first year. Then it goes down to $400 for the second year, and then it's $300 a year for the third year and every year that you keep it after that. So if you want to look at that as a $1,200 investment and you get 2 $10,000 grants out of it, I think that's a pretty good return on your investment. It has quick and easy access to thousands of Pennsylvania-specific foundations, and they also do customized training and ability to search regionally. So it really did take that idea of the big, giant phone book of Pennsylvania Grants Guide and make it an online searchable database, which I very much prefer, other than to killing all those trees and printing all those giant books that are going to be out of date in 3 years anyway, because things change. People change, phone numbers change, websites change. So I do like the Pennsylvania Foundations Online. I recommend that to people. So the next tool that I have a lot of experience with is the Foundation Directory Online. It's the Foundation Center in New York's online searchable database. I remember many years ago when this tool first came out, it wasn't an online database. It was a database that you had to download onto your computer. And my old employer purchased the database, and anybody who wanted it had to bring their computer to Philadelphia, where my main office of our organization was, and have it installed by IT. And so I literally had to unplug my tower and carry it to Philadelphia and have it installed on my computer as a database that again, so that was static. That would never be updated. Then, like, the internet, happened. So thank you to Al Gore that now I can just search it using fconline.foundationcenter.org. That is also a subscription-based service. Now, you can actually have access to that at one of those AFP libraries, like at Pottstown, instead of paying $1,499 a year. That's the highest tier plan that gives you the most access. You can sort of go on their website and read about the different levels, because I didn't want to get into what you get with each level. But then there's a preferred level for $999 a year and an essential level, which doesn't get you a whole lot, for $399 a year. So instead of spending money on that, why not go to the Pottstown Library or the Bluebell campus of Montgomery County Community College and use it for free? Again, when I got my position with the county, what they use is a tool that I had never heard of called eCivis, which to me is the Cadillac of grant research in the United States. It's the most powerful tool that I've seen in the 20 years that I've been doing this. It is every grant in one place. So it's every federal grant, every state grant, every local grant, every foundation grant, all in one place. So obviously it's going to be really expensive. So the cost is actually based on the number of user licenses that your organization needs and the types of services that you select. They have they customize each package to each specific customer. So contracts, this is from their website, usually range from $5,000 to $280,000. I would imagine the $280,000 is for maybe the federal government or large hospitals or large health systems that have hundreds of people looking for grants all at one time. I know that the county pays closer to the $5,000, a little bit more than that. But again, if we get, the county gets millions and millions and millions of dollars in federal and state grants for public safety, for assets and infrastructure, which includes parks, trails, and historic sites, for all the health and human service providers in the county. So it certainly makes it worth it. The ability to simply type in, log in with my username and password and type in a couple of keywords and hit a button, it's really an incredible tool. I don't know that the AFP libraries have access to this, but we're going to talk a little bit more about how I can help you with that on our last slide. So the next thing that I would encourage you to do, which sounds kind of funny, is to Google stuff. Just Google grants for human service providers in Pottstown, grants for, if you're looking for a specific project, just be as specific as possible and just start poking around. Sometimes it just takes spending an hour poking through Google to come across things that you've never heard of, because everybody's heard of the Pottstown Health and Wellness Foundation, but there's lots of other foundations out there that might work for you, and lots of other funding sources. There's lots of businesses in Pottstown that are donating, that are up and coming, that might want to sponsor an event that you can create relationships with. So Googling who gave money to whatever your cause is in Pottstown or in wherever you're working can actually give you some good access to some information that is out there. It might be a press release. It might be something from the funder side that you didn't see. So, you know, that's a good place to start. Googling. So, just to wrap up, one of the things that I can help you with is if you send me an email to my Gmail account there, I can sort of add you to what I call my distribution. So if a grant comes across my desk and it sounds like something that would work for you, the more I know about what you're looking for, the specific populations, the specific programs, the specific projects, or if it's general operating, and I see something, I send out, I get a grant update every week from eCivis, which has usually close to 150 grant opportunities in it. And I will spend a half a day going through it and just forwarding it out to my government partners and to my nonprofit partners in Montgomery County. So if there's a library grant, I have a list of libraries who have asked me to help them. If I have human service grants in Norristown, I have a list of human service providers in Norristown that have asked me for help. So one of the things that I can do is sort of give you some access to that. I can't really do a lot of research for you specifically, and I certainly can't write the grant for you. But if you send me an email and say, hey, I'm looking for these 6 things, if they come across your desk, could you please forward them to me? I'd be happy to add you to.
Okay, I think we're back, and I think we lost Jessica. But Ashley and Terry, I just to say thank you so much, Jessica, and also that on February the 27th, we'll have another webinar. It will be LinkedIn strategies. One of the things that Jessica mentioned was that a lot of your funding is going to come from individuals, so you'll need to cultivate those relationships, and the LinkedIn strategies presentation will be chock full of information to assist you in that way. So we thank you for your participation and hope that you have a great week, and I know that Jessica said that you can reach out to her at any time with her email, and we really appreciate you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.